Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
Dandavad Pranam.
Thank you so much for blessing us. I wasn't sure you're connected, so I was trying to call. Anand Chaitanya Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So we are supremely fortunate that we have our dear Gaurang Prabhu with us today. We're celebrating Jagannath festival to invite Lord Jagannath to our hearts. And this is a continuation. Last week, Amrindra Prabhu, Madhvanand Prabhu shared wonderful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this week, Gaurang Prabhu will share with us the pastimes of Lord Jagannath through the meditation on Jagannath Ashtakam. Thank you so much. Gaurang Prabhu, very brief introduction. Gaurang Prabhu is a B.Tech graduate from IIT Bombay and is serving in various capacities at national and global level in ISKCON organization. He's a global duty officer for ISKCON Governing Body Commission, trustee of ISKCON GBC College, member of the GBC Organizational Development Committee and GBC Nominations Committee, divisional director of Devotee Care and Temple Development, systems and administration departments of ISKCON temples worldwide. These are just official designations, but Gaurang Prabhu has been touching the hearts of hundreds and thousands of devotees all over the world for the last 20 years, traveling to America, to England, to many other countries, and especially to my family. He's been so dear and blessed us. He's our family doctor, we can say. His personal spiritual guide, mentor, has blessed our family and children and our congregation. Thank you so much, Gaurang Prabhu, for blessing us.
Hare Krishna.
Mike is all
Thank you
yours.
very much. Pranam. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisheshunyavadi Paschat Deshtarane Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Thank you very much, Madhupati Prabhu, Devkinandan Prabhu, the ISKCON devotees at CNJ. Srila Prabhupada established this movement, and two of the main important reasons why he established was to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Ekantino yasana kanchanartham vanchanti evai bhagavat prapanna ati adbhutam tacharitam sumangalam gayant ananda samudra magna. So those who are Ekanti devotees are absorbed, swimming in the nectar of Krishna Katha. What is Maya? Forgetfulness of Krishna. And therefore Prabhupada established Krishna consciousness movement so that we can remember Krishna through his holy name, through Srimad Bhagavatam, through Vaishnav Seva, through deity worship, and most importantly, by visiting the holy dhams. And so, as July 12th Rath Yatra date is manifesting, I am remembering so many Rath Yatras which I have participated in Jagannath Puri during Rath Yatra. And the dham basically exists to invoke that particular mood. And ultimately, we are all seeking pleasure. But pleasure at the level of the senses, at the mind, intelligence, ego, these are all reflections of the original pleasure which we experience at the level of the soul. Durapahi alpatapasa seva vaikunthavartmasu yatropagiyate nityam deva devo janardana. It's very, very difficult to experience spiritual pleasure by serving the great spiritual masters and teachers and being blessed by their association and getting their direction. We can actually implement the practice of Krishna consciousness in our life. As Brahma Samhita says, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. So, like a child, we should always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Right? So, therefore, Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture and he said, my Guru Maharaj Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, whoever chant 64 rounds a day, they are actually Vaishnavas. And whoever does not chant 64 rounds is Patita. Right? So that is Prabhupada also mentions in the Nectar of Instruction, quoting Saraswati Thakur. But Prabhupada, initially also expressed 64 rounds, but when he saw that devotees will not be able to do that, then he came down to 32. And then he saw that even that was difficult, so then he said 16. So, Srila Prabhupada established this daily chanting of the holy name so that we can practice how to intensify our inspiration and our intention. So we have to intensify our inspiration. Inspiration is qualitative. Intention, and the intensity of our intention needs to be qualitatively strengthened. And that's the reason we do hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. So therefore, previously, of course, you have requested me to speak about Jagannath Ashtakam, but that's a pretty technical, topic which can be much better understood in a live class over 2-3 hours period. So in 1 hour, I would rather stick to speaking about the history of the Rath Yatra and some of the pastimes connected to Lord Jagannath's temple. And interestingly, in the month of March, I also got appointed to the Puri Development Committee, and I've been visiting Jagannath Puri in that period. And currently, the Bhaktivedanta Research Center has taken up the responsibility of assisting the Jagannath Puri Temple administration in translating many of the Uriya literatures, manuscripts, into English language, and also trying to analyze and publish them. So we are working closely with the main temple administrator at this particular point in time. And so if you visit Jagannath Puri, you will see that right in front of the temple, in front of Simhadwara, there has been a lot of redevelopment, a change, and widening of the roads and beautification happening. So over the next 2 to 3 years, there is a plan to improve the overall aesthetics of the place. So previously, Jagannathji was known only to people from Orissa and Bengal. And Britishers have written in their diaries in very derogatory terms about Lord Jagannath and considering that there is blood on his tongue, etc. And many people from Shaivite and Buddhist background, they considered Jagannath to be something different. But in the Garuda Puran, in the Padma Puran, in the Brahma Vaivarta Puran, and all the Puranas, all the rituals for Lord Jagannath are from Niladri Mahoday Amrita. And Prabhupada's teachings, have been such that he took that worship of Lord Jagannath and understood the Patit Pavan Bhav of Lord Jagannath, and then brought Lord Jagannath's worship to ISKCON in a way that Jagannathji goes on the streets of various Rath Yatras across the world and delivers people. through his darshan in many of those Rath Yatras. So, Anyera Hridayaman Moraman Brindavan Manevane Ekakuri Jani. Lord Jagannath is actually Krishna going from Kurukshetra to Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my mind is Vrindavan and my mind is fixed in Vrindavan. And so Puri is known as Shankha Kshetra because it is in the shape of a conch. And this conch is very auspicious, and Lord holds the conch in his hand. And therefore it is known as Shankha Kshetra, non-different from Vaikuntha. And therefore it is described that a tirtha is a bridge which connects the material world to the spiritual world. And on the way to Jagannath Puri, if you're coming from Bhubaneswar, you will first come to a place which is known as Atharanala. And this Atharanala is like the bridge, and it is considered to be the bridge between the material world and the spiritual world. And therefore, this temple of Jagannath Puri has been renovated many, many times after the original temple built by King Indradyumna Maharaj. And therefore, Indradyumna Maharaj comes in the Satyuga. And these forms got manifested, as all of you know, that Rohini was one of the few people who had seen these pastimes in Vrindavan. And so the queens of Krishna asked Mother Rohini to tell different pastimes in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Ahobhagyam Nandagopa Prajokasamyan Mitram Paramanandam Purna Brahma Sanatanam. Residents of Vrindavan are very, very fortunate because they saw Krishna's pastimes so intimately. And therefore, Mother Rohini, she was narrating these different pastimes. But she was saying that I'm afraid that Krishna and Balram should not hear these pastimes, otherwise they'll run towards Vrindavan. So they asked Subhadra Maharani to guard the door. And so Rohini Mataji started speaking about the pastimes. And, the queens were hearing the pastime and Krishna and Balram come. Subhadra Mata stops them that you cannot go inside. But the Lord said, okay, we can hear what is going on without going inside. So whenever someone asks you, you are more interested to do those things where there is a greater tendency. So Krishna and Balram had a great desire and inspiration to hear about Vraj, Shri Vrindavan Dham. So therefore they started hearing. And while hearing the beautiful pastimes of Vrindavan, Krishna became stunned with ecstasy because of the influence of the Vraja Prema. Deha Pratam Iyan Artho Hitva Dambham Bhyam Shucham Sandeshatyu Harir Linga Darshana Shravanadibhi. When Akrura comes to Vrindavan, just by seeing the lotus footprints of Krishna, he jumps from his chariot and rolls on that footprint, smears himself with dust because he's overwhelmed by love for Krishna. So the devotees in Vrindavan are overwhelmed with love for Krishna, and Krishna is overwhelmed with love for the Brajavasis. Evam Brahmana Virahatura Brisham Prajastriya Krishna Vishakta Manasa Visrja Lajja Rudusmasusmaran Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. As Akrura is taking Krishna away from Vrindavan, the gopis are running behind Krishna, saying, stop it, do not leave. They lose all of their lajja, visrja lajja, rurudu, and they are crying, sususmaran, they are remembering, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. They are remembering and crying out to Krishna, please do not leave us. So as Krishna and Balram are hearing these pastimes being spoken by the beautiful lotus lips of Rohini Devi, they remember their childhood pastimes. And, as they are hearing these pastimes in great ecstasy, they are totally in bliss. And as part of that bliss, their eyes become large and their entire hands and legs enter into their bodies and their transformation happens. And this transformation is something which is astonishing. So actually it is Rohini Devi whose responsible for creating this transformation. And what this transformation of the body of Krishna and Balaram indicate? The power of pure love to influence and touch the heart of the Lord. So therefore, when you see the deities of Lord Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra, they indicate the power and the glory of the love of the Brajavasis, that the Supreme Lord is supreme, but that which can control the Supreme Lord is the power of love. Evam sandarshita hyanga harina britya bashchata swavashena api krishnena yasyedam seshwaram vashe. The Damodar Leela is played out over a month's time, and temples all over the world during Kartik month remember this pastime. What is this pastime? What is that tattva which this pastime is glorifying? This pastime is glorifying the power of love to conquer over and control Krishna. And therefore, Swamato Svenna Gatraya Visrishta Kavarasraya Drishtva Parishramam Krishna Kripayasit Swabandhane. Mother Yashoda controlled Krishna by her love. And therefore, the deity and the darshan of the beautiful darshan of Jagannath, Baldev, and Subhadra indicate how the Lord becomes conquered just by hearing about his loving associates. The power of prema to bind the Lord in such a way that the Lord takes a permanent form of Jagannath. And therefore, in Sri Kshetra Dham, Lord sends his devotee Indradumna Maharaj to build a beautiful temple. And he got a dream in which Neelamadhav appeared and he said, I'm being worshipped by the Shabaras, and please, you come and take me. And as all of you know, this beautiful pastime that finally, the Lord in the form of Neelamadhav was brought, and Vishwavasu hides the deity of Neelamadhav in such a place where no one can see. And so the king comes to the Shabara province, and then there is a celestial voice, and the voice says, "O king, don't worry, I'm hearing, I'm here, I'm coming to you. I'll meet you at the place where the river meets the sea." This is in Puri. "I'll come in the form of 3 logs, and you ask Vishwavasu to carry them and tell his descendants to carve the logs, carve the deities out of the logs." And it is said that Vishwakarma, he comes and tells Indradumna Maharaj that I am going inside the room for 9 days to carve the deity. Until 9 days are over, no one should come inside. So as the carving is happening, the Maharani, the queen Gundicha, she becomes impatient and says, "I don't hear the sound of the carver, please open." And the king opens the door and he sees the beautiful form and he sees that there is no Krishna deity. And the Lord speaks to him that actually this form is complete. And I am happiest in this form as Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. And therefore, Sudarshan is also there in the form of the lathi of Lord Jagannath as a log. So many people say it is Jagannath's lathi, but it is not Jagannath's lathi. It is the Sudarshan in the form of that beautiful form. So Jagannath Puri is known as Sri Kshetra Dham, and it is also known as the Dashavatar Kshetra, because if you go to Jagannath Puri, you get the benefit of visiting all the 10 holy places, and you also get, the darshan, the benefit of the darshan of even Kalki Avatar in advance. Just by seeing darshan of Lord Jagannath, the credit of seeing all the 10 avatars is received. Lakshmi Devi resides in Jagannath Puri eternally. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of separation from Krishna, and he saw Lord Jagannath in that mood. And therefore, this kshetra is also known as Vipralamba Kshetra. Vrindavana Govardhan Yamuna Pulinavan Sai Kunje Rasa Dikalila Sei brajer brajajan mata pita bandhugan bada chitra kemone pausarila. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes how Mahaprabhu is in Vipralamba Bhav, separation in the mood of Radharani. And therefore, there is a beautiful hill, and by cutting that hill, this beautiful temple was made, and the name of that hill was Niladri, and that is also known as Nilachala. So therefore, this place is also known as Nilachala Kshetra. It is in the shape of a conch, so it is also known as Shankha Kshetra. This is also known as Vaikuntha on this planet, and therefore it is called Martya Vaikuntha. This place, if one visits by darshan of Lord Jagannath and by pulling on the rath even once, by touching that rope, even the most fallen is delivered. So it is called as Patit Pavan Kshetra. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Jagannath, stays here. Uttama Purushastvanya Paramatmeti Udaharta, Yo Lokat Prayavishya Vivartavyayam Ishvara. So this place is also known as Purushottam Kshetra, Jagannath Kshetra. So many beautiful names of Lord Jagannath in this form are there. So one of the interesting things about Jagannath temple is there are various wonders connected to Jagannath Puri. And there is an interesting story of Vibhishana when when Ram killed Ravana and he came back to Ayodhya, he coronated. He was coronated as the king of Ayodhya. So Lord Ram was giving benedictions to everyone, including to Vibhishan, including to Hanumanji. He gave immortality to Hanumanji. And he looked at Sugriva and he asked, what benediction do you want? And Sugriva said, I don't want to stay in this world. I want to go back to the spiritual world. And so when Ram was about to leave for the spiritual world, taking his eternal abode of Ayodhya, Ayodhya Vasis with him, Vibhishana comes. And he said, my dear Lord, you are going to leave to the spiritual world. But I have a desire that I want to have your darshan every single day. So at that time, Lord Ram told Vibhishana that I, along with my brother Lakshman, and this Lakshman is non-different than Balramji, we will come to Niladri and we will reside there eternally. And therefore, this is confirmed in the Padma Purana and also in the Utkal Khanda. And so Vibhishana comes sometimes and has darshan of Lord Jagannath and Baladev at Jagannath Puri. So the main temple has 4 doors, and it is said that he comes every single day to get darshan of Lord at night. And also there are pastimes in this regard. So what are the 10 different wonders of Jagannath Puri? The first wonder is no birds or flying creatures you will see flying over the Sri Mandir. So there is under the Jagannath's altar there is a Ratna Simhasana where more than 1,000 Shaligram Shilas are kept, and they have been brought from Nepal. And the king had offered these Shaligram Shilas to Indradumna Maharaj at that particular point of time. So he is the only person who can actually come and directly come in the altar and do the arti. So Lord Jagannath is actually staying here in this Shri Mandir. Okay, the flag here is in such a way that the flag indicates the opposite direction, which is the sea. Third, the Shri Mandir is made in such a way by Vishwakarma that its shadow falls on the other temple's head in such a way that no one can step on them. The fourth is the wind always blows within the temple and the courtyard. Fifth wonder is the sound of the sea never enters into the temple because Subhadra Maharani at one point of time was extremely disturbed by the sound of the sea. And so what happened was, Lord Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra. So Baldev ji told Lord Jagannath, I am getting very much disturbed. So Jagannath ji said, what can I do? It is my father-in-law, Ocean, who's, doing this. So Subhadra said, you must do something about this. So at that particular point in time, Lord Jagannath was wondering who will be able to control the sound of the sea. And he looked at Hanumanji and told Hanumanji, I gave you this service to somehow subdue the sound of the sea. And so Hanumanji stood right there at the doorstep of the Jagannath temple with his ears, right towards the ocean. And so it is said that this deity of Hanumanji is known as the Kan Pata Hanumanji. That means he hears the sound of the sea. He roars very, very loudly, and the sea goes back out of fear. And therefore, the sound of the sea never enters into the temple. If you go right from the opposite door, the Simhadwara is on the eastern side, and on the western side, if you go, you will see the deities of Kanpata Hanuman. Sixth wonder is the Jagannath's Mahaprasad never gets contaminated. You can eat the Mahaprasadam even from a leaf from a dustbin. Seven, the same amount of food is cooked all through the year, irrespective of the season. Eighth is no one except Lakshmi ji cooks for Lord Jagannath. Yes, there are 720 stoves kept inside if you go there. And then, on each stove there are 8 pots which are cooked, which are kept one on top of another. So you may wonder, how will the, fire get equally distributed, right? But actually, the pots are arranged in such a way that all of the ingredients get cooked simultaneously. The devotees just put the water and ingredients in the pots, leave the pots on the stove. There is nobody who comes and stirs. And therefore, they say Lakshmi Devi personally cooks here. The same prasad is cooked throughout the year. There is the same taste. There is never excess water. Devotees do not have to drain any water from the pot. Jagannathji accepts Chappan Bhog all through the day. So Indradumna Maharaj had asked Lord Jagannath for these 3 boons. He has said, first, I should not have any descendants who will claim that this temple is mine. Second, there should not be any time bound for your darshan. So darshan is closed only for 3 hours. And actually it is closed for normal people, but the demigods, they come and take darshan during that particular time. So this temple is also known as Avaidik, in the sense that Pancharatra Vidhi is not followed. And so Lord Jagannath is being more merciful. He thinks that people find it difficult to get up in the morning in Kali Yuga. And, they are more active at night. They dress up nicely and go for parties at night. So Jagannath also decides to dress himself up beautifully at night. And the best darshan of the day actually happens almost around 10 to 11 o'clock at night. And that is known as the Bada Shringara Besh. People from the spiritual world come to see the Lord in this. And the third benediction which Indradumna Maharaj asked was, my dear Lord, please continuously accept bhoga and your hand should never become dry. And so the ninth wonder of Lord Jagannath temple is, even if you take the Mahaprasad far away from the temple, the quality, the spirituality of the prasadam remains the same even after many, many years far away from the temple. 10th is, even if all the living entities, including 8.4 million species of life, come for prasadam at the Jagannath temple, on any day, any time, prasadam can be made available for them without fail. So therefore, even if you go to the temple at odd times and darshan is not on, you can always get darshan of Lord Jagannath. At the outskirts of the temple at Simhadwara, you must have seen the deity of Patita Pavana. So therefore, on the right hand side, as soon as you enter, you will see these beautiful deities of Patita Pavana. So those who cannot enter the temple and take darshan get the darshan of Patita Pavana. So, one of the questions which is often asked is why are non-Hindus or especially foreigners not allowed to enter inside the temple? So in the Niladri Mahoday and also in the Bhavishyavani, it is said that one foreign devotee will have so much of love for Lord Jagannath, and he would be such a great devotee of Lord Jagannath that when he would go and take darshan of Lord Jagannath, Jagannath ji would personally walk down the altar, walk out of the temple, and go to that devotee's country with that devotee. And therefore, because of this history or this particular point being mentioned in the Niladri Mahoday, the devotees protect the Lord from going with the devotees from the West or foreign devotees seeing his love for him. So therefore, the Lord being Patita Pavana, this is one of the only deities which comes out in their original form and not the Utsav Vigraha to give darshan to the devotees. And therefore, on Rath Yatra day, giving up his comfortable position inside, he comes out, sits on the chariot, and is being taken by the devotees. A certain devotee was a great devotee of Lord Jagannath, fell in love with a Muslim girl. He got married to her. He was one of the kings. So he used to be the main worshipper of Lord Jagannath, but because he married someone who was a Muslim, he was ostracized at that time and he was not allowed to take darshan of Lord Jagannath. But since he was a great devotee of the Lord personally walked, came here and gave him darshan. And therefore, by remembering the king and remembering all others that cannot come inside, Lord Jagannath said, you make a beautiful altar right here, just inside the Simhadwar. And therefore, this deity of Lord Jagannath is the Patita Pavan deity, self-manifested deity, to give a darshan to those who cannot normally enter this temple. And so, as soon as you enter the temple, there is the Bais Padicha, which means there are the 22 steps. And you have to step on these 22 steps, and then you can have darshan of the Lord. These 22 steps are explained in the Puri temple directory. They are also explained in the Niladri Mahoday. And these 22 steps represent the 10 different directions, the Dig Devatas, the 5 senses, the 5 pranavayus, and the last 2 steps, as described in the Damodar Leela also, is our desire to serve the Lord and the Lord's reciprocation. So therefore, only once you have conquered the 10 directions, the 5 senses, the 5 pranavayus, and you have expressed your desire to serve the Lord, and the Lord has accepted that desire and reciprocated, then only we will be actually able to get the darshan of the Lord. So then, the Jagannath temple has various gates. So the first gate is the Arun, and along with the gate there is right in front of Simhadwara, there is a stambha which is known as the Aruna Stambha. This was brought by Shivaji Maharaj from Konark. Jagannath ji is sitting on the same level as the sea level at the temple. So Aruna is the chariot driver of the sun god and is the brother of Garuda Dev. So Garuda is the one who's eternally carrying the Lord on his back. So Aruna Stambha was in Konark, and the importance of this stambha is that much of the stambha is visible above the ground. And whatever is visible above the ground, the same is below the ground also. So Jagannath is sitting at that level where Aruna is. This is the place where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to wash his feet when he was in Sri Kshetra Dham. This is the Sri Mandir, then there is the Nath Mandir, and there is the Bhog Mandir within the temple of Lord Jagannath. So Bhog Mandir and Jagannath ji are sitting at the same level, but the Nath Mandir is down where the devotees are standing to get darshan of Lord Jagannath. And there is no barrier between the Bhoga Mandir and Jagannath. Everything is visible. Whatever, bhoga is offered, everybody can actually see. So therefore, why is, this particular Mahaprasadam so much glorified? Because this Mahaprasadam was being distributed in the spiritual world. And at that time, Lakshmi Devi, distributed the Mahaprasadam of Lord Vishnu, but she could not find even a little bit of that Mahaprasadam, and Narad Muni was very disturbed. And at that time, he was given the benediction that very soon this Mahaprasadam will be available in Kali Yuga when the Lord appears as Lord Jagannath. So there is a story of how even Lord Shiva was in great ecstasy, and he wanted, just by tasting that little bit of, the kana of Mahaprasad of Lord Jagannath. So when Mahaprabhu comes and sees the Lord's form, he faints. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is performing the kirtans with his devotees in full ecstasy. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, when he sees Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is convinced that he is the Supreme Lord. And in this way, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya became one of the greatest preachers in Sri Kshetra Dham. And there is a tunnel from Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya's house to the Puri temple. So if you go to, Shvetaganga area in Jagannath Puri, there is a house of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, but there is a close connection with the temple also. So the Puri temple is interconnected by various tunnels. And so the Puri temple is considered one of the most mysterious temples in the whole world. So therefore, the richest temple is Tirupati. But actually, even Lord Jagannath's riches are such that, not many people are aware of it. So it is described that Lord Hastings, who was, the British Lord at that time, he was very powerful governor. He was the governor for Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. And he entered at that time, maybe 250 years back, and he saw these hidden tunnels. Indradyumna Maharaj made this temple in such a way that what you see above the ground is only 10% of the whole temple. 90% of the Jagannath temple is underground. Many, many rooms are there inside. So, Lord Warren Hastings, along with his soldiers, forcefully he enters inside, and then he comes to a room and he opens that room, and then he has these torches which are like flames which are burning in his hand. And he went to the first room, and then he sees that that first room is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer in dimension. And there were rubies and emeralds and jewels and stones. And he went to only the second room and the third room. And when he went to the third room, suddenly he heard a huge hissing sound. And he was just, bewildered by hearing that sound. And Warren Hastings writes in his diary that actually, when I heard that hissing sound, I thought I am going to die. And he literally ran away with all of his soldiers. He sealed that door. And he was afraid there was something extremely heavy which was rolling on the ground and coming towards him. This was Anantadev. So actually, when any Vishnu temple is made, Ananta Shesha or Sheshnag is established. And Lord Balram, he holds the entire Vishnu temple. So therefore, Lord Jagannath's temple is, actually a very mysterious, very exciting place to explore the glories of the Lord. And in fact, it is said that one of our political leaders who had political power, they tried their level best to blast the main tunnel, which is on the left hand side of the temple, and it is sealed actually. This is the entrance to the main temple. And actually, one of these political leaders wanted to blast that, right? And then, uh, they tried their level best, but they could not do that. Instead, that person actually got blasted. And therefore, Lord and his temple is extremely powerful, and we should simply try to follow in the footsteps of the great souls of how they approach Lord Jagannath and his temple and not do something whimsical. So, Indradumna Maharaj, he made this temple in such a way that even if you can't see the temple, you can always see the flag. And so he called this the Patita Pavana Dhwaja. This flag has been flying wonderfully for thousands of years. And many of you must have seen the flag changing ceremony, but it is something which is really a fascinating experience. Every single day that flag is changed, and it is changed by a particular lineage of people, you know. And as soon as you see that flag, you are reminded of Krishna. You can see that flag from long distances. And children who are extremely young are trained by their father into this flag changing sampradaya. It is said that since history, not a single person who has gone up to change that flag has ever fallen, and not a single accident has happened. In fact, many years ago, there is a story of a small boy who was accompanying his father, on this mission to learn how to change the flag. And then suddenly he slipped and he fell. And as he was falling down, about to crash to his death, suddenly a monkey appeared from out of the blue, held that child, and brought the child to safety in, one of the particular dimensions of the temple. And therefore, Jagannath Puri is a place which is filled with fascinating pastimes. One of my favorite places in Jagannath Puri is Shweta Ganga. And right now they have beautified Shweta Ganga wonderfully. That was also a favorite location for Radhanath Swami Maharaj to speak his kathas during our yatras. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had a beautiful deities here of Radha, Rasik Rai, when he would be worshipping them on a daily basis. There is a beautiful lake, and every dham has presence of holy Ganga, and Gangaji is present in Vrindavan as Manasi Ganga, and in Puri, Gangaji is present as Shweta Ganga. So this Shweta Ganga is non-different from Ganga. So Rishi Munis who can travel at the power of their mind. There are many, many rishis and many munis who dip here, come out of this Ganga, and then go to another Ganga, and then another Ganga, like that. And therefore, in Jagannath Puri, Lord Jagannath, inside the temple, wears the biggest jewel, biggest diamond. The biggest diamond in whole of India is on the mukut of Lord Jagannath. So previously it used to be Kohinoor, but it was taken to Britain and kept in the British Museum. But Indradun Maharaj personally gifted Lord Jagannath with this beautiful, huge blue diamond. Baldev has a huge red diamond, and you can see in their heads. And the Lord gives darshan along with these beautiful jewels. So many, many years ago, some thieves attracted by these diamonds, they actually decided we will steal. What was their plan? When the door was open in the day, in the midst of the crowd, they gradually, quietly slipped inside and they hung, from inside the doors. So when the pujaris came out, after coming out, then they closed the door. They did not realize that behind on those doors, these thieves were hanging. So the idea was they would steal and then hang again. Next day morning, when the pujaris would open the door, when the pilgrims would start coming in the thousands, they would quietly slip down, mix with the pilgrims, and then come out. That was their plan. So they entered inside in the middle of the crowd, and without anyone seeing them, they were hanging the pujaris at night when they closed. And then after that, next day when the pujaris opened uh, the altar, they just found that thousands and thousands of snakes, they were dead there, dangerous cobras, and they were right there. And actually, these thieves had been killed. So, it is impossible for anyone to understand some of these pastimes which happen in Jagannath Puri on a continuous basis. But the Lord is always there in the form of his deities, constantly giving his darshan to his devotees. And, many of these events which have happened inside the Puri temple have been recorded, and they are also part of history. And that is something which Bhaktivedanta Research Center is working with the Puri temple administration to get more details into. So, this is something which is very, very beautiful. So, there is a beautiful pastime of a lady devotee, and her name was Shachi. She came from Khulna in Bangladesh. She was the princess of a place called Khulna, and from the very beginning of her life, she was extremely attracted to Krishna, and she wanted to worship the deity form of Lord. And to such an extent, when time for her marriage came, she said, I don't want to get married to any mortal person. I want to marry Krishna. And so, in search of Krishna, she comes to Vrindavan Dham. And there she gets the association of her eternal spiritual master, whose name is Gadadhar Das. Gadadhar Das was the disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. And so she got initiated in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So she was a royal queen. She left everything. And, Gadadhar Das was not giving her initiation because he was saying that Sachi was so rich and that opulence is going to be a badha, an impediment in her service to the Lord. So she left everything. She gave whatever she brought from her kingdom away. She became a proper beggar, a bona fide beggar. She used to beg for alms. Gradually, because of her poverty stricken lifestyle, all of her beauty faded away. And she was actually in search of eternal happiness by asking for diksha. And finally, she became a symbol of total renunciation and vairagya. And then, by the mercy of Gadadhar Das, she actually was given the holy names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So she was in Govardhan doing parikrama every day, chanting 64 rounds. Suddenly, her eternal spiritual master Gadadhar Das orders, my dear Sachi, in Sri Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and associates are going back to the spiritual abode. So therefore, you please go to Jagannath Puri, you stay and preach Mahaprabhu's glories and her teachings. So by taking the order of her spiritual master, Sri Gadadhar Das, she leaves Vrindavan. She loved Vrindavan, but Vrindavan is not a place to go whimsically. Vrindavan means wherever we are following instructions of our Guru Varga, that is where Vrindavan will manifest. And taking the order of her Gurudev, she just goes to Sri Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham. And then she comes over and takes over this place of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had already left previously, and she was blessed by her spiritual master, Sri Gadadhar Das. She was totally in rapt attention, chanting the holy names of the Lord. She was constantly studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. She was in rapt attention. Bhagavatam was in her heart. She was just speaking glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. different chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam to everyone in rapt attention. Her glory spread throughout Sri Kshetra. The king would personally come and hear her pravachan, you know. And then after a few years, she had intense desire, to come to Bengal and take bath in Mother Ganga, Ganga Devi. So Ganga is the Charanamrit of Lord Vishnu. Ganga Snan is very, very purifying. So therefore, when she had this desire, at that time, it is described that her heart was filled with intense desire to worship Lord Ganga, Mother Ganga, and take full blessings of Mother Ganga. So therefore, at this particular point, when she had that desire, she never spoke it, but Krishna understood her desire. And because Krishna knows everything, so as Sachi was planning to go there, the Lord who loves the devotees very much, he did not want to leave her association. Tumara Hridaya Sada Govinda Vishram. In your heart, Krishna is always there, O Vaishnava. So therefore, he is so eager, the Lord is so eager for the devotees' association and mercy that he cannot bear, Lord Jagannath could not bear the fact that Sachi would leave Jagannath Puri. So therefore, Lord Jagannath personally comes in the dream of Sachi, and he tells that actually you don't leave Jagannath Puri at all. I will personally release Ganga from my own toe, and that Ganga will come and merge here and become part of Shweta Ganga. And 12 o'clock in the night, you come, you come and touch. And as soon as you come and touch, you will get the benefit of a Ganga Snan. You will get all the Sukriti as personally taking bath. So Sachi is very happy that, I have been given this benediction, so I don't have to leave Jagannath Puri. So everybody was sleeping. So Sachi gets up, chants her rounds, and then she comes to that particular spot to take bath. And as soon as she touches Shweta Ganga, the water started rising. And she was totally immersed in the Shweta Ganga. And then the whole water rises up. She comes out, and when she comes out of the water after taking bath, she sees the entire spiritual world right there in Sri Kshetra Dham, and she is convinced that this Sri Kshetra Dham is non-different from Vaikuntha. So there are different demigods, Narad Muni, Brahmaji, seven Vasus, all of them are worshipping, and including Lord Mahadev is there. So everybody is glorifying Lord Jagannath Ji. And as there was the worship and dancing and chanting of Lord Jagannath Ji, and she is standing there right in the middle of the night. Nobody was there. She was standing there totally drenched. So then she could not understand. And suddenly, by hearing all of that discussion, the guards come there. And guards think that, oh, she's standing there totally drenched. She must have some wrong motive. She wants to harm the deities. She may be stealing something. And Sachi was very quiet. And she considers this may be a special blessings of the Lord. The guards take her and put her in jail. She never complained. And at this particular point in time, pure devotees are always very, very tolerant. Kratagya kono seveta duraradhyam asadavi. So therefore, devotees are always tolerant. They are extremely grateful. And so Sachi was just tolerating all of that misunderstanding. And the king was sleeping, and suddenly when the roaring voice he heard in his dream, and that roaring voice woke him up. And the king was bewildered in the dream because Lord Jagannath appeared in the dream, woke up the king and said, my great devotee, Sachi, she's in the jail. Your stupid prisoner, your stupid, guards have put her in jail. Immediately, you actually go with your family, fall at her feet, and take blessings of Sachi. Give her all respect and take diksha from her. She is my great devotee. The king gets up, takes a bath, and takes all the queen relatives, everybody. You get up. They said, what happened? And the king says, we are going to be blessed by Sachi Devi. And then, immediately all of them rush. They take shelter of Sachi. She did not want to give initiation, but when she heard that this is what Jagannath ji has wanted, then she initiates. So then, in this way, you know, this lady, Sri Sachi, she became so powerful Vaishnavi by the influence of Lord Jagannath ji. And she did not actually want to be a guru, but when she heard it is the order of Lord Jagannath, she actually agrees. And on the same day, Sachi Devi gives initiation to the king. The king says, I want to give you some Guru Dakshina. What do you want? And, she says, I'm staying in this hut every day. Send me some Mahaprasadam every day. This is your Guru Dakshina. So for the last 350 years, from the Puri temple, Shachi and Sachi's disciples, are getting the same amount of Mahaprasad every single day. So in this way, there are these beautiful pastimes of Lord Jagannath which happen connected with his devotees, connected with the beautiful temple, connected with the culture of the place. Jagannath Puri is a fascinating place, a very attractive place, an enchanting place. Once you go there, you lose your heart in Jagannath Puri. And His Holiness Gaur Govind Maharaj acquired 25 acres of land in the late 70s at Jagannath Puri next to the ocean. And currently the cost of the land is almost 250 crores. And, ISKCON somehow so far has been trying to develop a project there, and we aspire to take the blessings of the devotees that ISKCON is actually able to develop a beautiful project there in harmony with the local people, the Jagannath temple, and Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak about Lord Jagannath. And I hope that, we are not able to come together because of the pandemic, but let us remain absorbed in meditation on Lord Jagannath's glories and Lord Jagannath's deities. Let us offer our prayers on the 12th on the occasion of Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra. Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Gaurang Prabhu, for enlightening us, taking us, exporting us to Lord Jagannath Puri, glorifying Lord Jagannath and his devotees. Thank you very, very much. We're also very grateful. His Grace Madhavanand Prabhuji joined from Puri Dham. I believe he's in Puri Dham. Madhavanand Prabhuji, are you there?
Yeah, I see him.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Would you like to say something? Hare Krishna.
So I have another, program at 7:30 in 2 minutes.
So no question answer?
Yeah, so I think maybe you can take the questions. Or maybe Madhupati Prabhu, he can, you and him together can answer the questions.
Well, we're also grateful. So you can spend the next 2-3 minutes. I'll share quickly.
Okay.
These devotees.
Jai.
So these are the different yatras. Our ISKCON Bhakti Center, Radha Govinda Brooklyn Temple, Artavako Temple, they all hosted, they supported fully, wholeheartedly. Our Bergen County Temple, Gitanagari Temple, Richmond Temple, Harrisburg Temple, Delaware, Philadelphia, and Baltimore Temple. And I saw many, many devotees from these different yatras. They were connected. I noticed Her Grace Parijata Mataji from Gitanagari. Our dear Jashoda Dalal Prabhu is always great inspiration for all of us, guiding us in different ways. So he was there, Gaur Kumar Prabhu was there, our Divyanam Prabhu was there from Richmond. So we were grateful to all the devotees for connecting and supporting. And next week, we will have His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami Maharaj glorifying Lord Jagannath Prasadam. Gaurang Prabhu gave us a little bit taste of the Prasadam, how it's cooked in many eight layers, eight pots. Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj will take us deep into and have us taste the Prasadam, and then followed by the last session on July 18th, His Holiness Sachinandan Swami Maharaj will bless us. So we request all the Vaishnavas to please stay connected, attend all these wonderful programs. And we are supremely grateful to our dear Gaurang Prabhu for agreeing and taking his time from his busy schedule. Thank you so much. Madhuri Prabhu, please share something.
No, we are indebted to Gauranga Prabhu for these wonderful pastimes of Lord Jagannath. Thank you very much, Gauranga Prabhu. I see that
Thank you.
every year you take this wonderful
I'm joining.
Wonderful opportunity to be in Jagannath Puri on the day of the Rath Yatra. I see pictures of Rath Yatra every year, and you are there.
Yeah.
So, if you plan to go there this year, please pray for us.
No, not this year. Not this year. It's being done by the administration, police, and others. So no public is allowed this year.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
You want to say something?
I am getting calls from my other call, Prabhu. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Well, if it's Grace Madhavananda Prabhu is there, we can.
Thank you, Bhaji.
We can see if you would like to fill the question answer sessions.
Yeah, definitely. Madhavan Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji is connected. Madhavan Prabhuji, are you there? I think he's muted. Problem.
I sent a message to unmute him, so let's see. I don't know.
Okay, we'll wait.
Okay, in the meantime, we can have, next Sunday we'll also be holding our Rath Yatra, actual day Rath Yatra. Here it is on July 11th. So that will be in the evening from 4 p.m. onwards, right at our temple in Plainfield. And then July 17th, we would like to invite you all for Atlantic City Rath Yatra, right on the boardwalk, starting at 2 p.m. from New Jersey Avenue and boardwalk, and going down to Kennedy Plaza, where we'll have wonderful kirtan and distribution of sumptuous prasadam. So you all are invited. Please join. Okay. Are there any? Madhavananda Prabhu?
Prabhuji, he's a little bit busy. He was
Okay.
to be available
Okay.
after 5
If anybody has questions, they can unmute, and then Prabhu, our dear Hema Jagannath Prabhu is there. He's very dear associate, so Lord Jagannath, he can answer. So if you have any question, you can please unmute and ask.
I had a question. So, I was thinking Madhvananda Prabhu talked in the first lecture of this series how Puri is a combination of Madhurya, Audharya, and Aishwarya Dhams, right? So, sweetness, mercy, or munificence, and opulence. And also, my mind went to Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where Gopakumar, before he begins his journey back to the spiritual world, he's serving in Jagannath Puri. But he's always hankering for Vraj. And then he does go to Dwarka and he meets Uddhav and Narada in Dwarka. And he gets extensive education from them. And I actually have that passage in front of me where, Narada is telling him that in Purushottam Kshetra, right next to Dwarka, the Lord displays his supreme opulence and yet charms his devotees by acting like an ordinary person of the world. And Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu says that Narada explains that in Purushottam Kshetra, which is non-different from Vraj, Krishna also manifests all his powers of Godhead and all his sweetness. So my question was, why did Gopakumar still hanker to go to Goloka? Is it as simple as every devotee has his own mood? So certain devotees, no matter what else they see, they just want to go to Ayodhya to serve Lord Ram. So is it as simple as that, or is there something there that I'm not grasping? So any of you exalted souls, if you can answer this, I would be grateful. Thank you.
I think Madhvanand Prabhu's came. Prabhuji, are you online? This question is like for Madhvanand Prabhu.
I think many of you are qualified to answer that also if he's not available. Hema Jagannath Prabhu or Madhupati Prabhu, Devkinandan Prabhu, Krishna Prabhu. I see some great souls here.
Gopi Bharta Pada Kamala Dasana Dasana Das. That's more. I think Gopakumar, after going through all the, I think from Brihad Bhagavatam, what I understand is it establishes the supreme abode and it establishes the supreme recipient of the mercy of the Lord. So in the first passage is that it establishes gopis as the supreme recipient of the mercy of the Lord, and then the supreme abode as Golaka. That's how I would understand it. That's why he's aspiring to go to Golaka and is not satisfied being anywhere else. Anybody else will like to add to that?
Krishnanand Prabhu, you want to share some?
Yeah,
Please.
I just meditating. Yes, as per scriptures, it is clearly mentioned Jagannath Puri is not different from Vrindavan and Mayapur. The quotations are there from Padma Purana, Skanda Purana. But I think ultimate abode, the topmost abode is Vrindavan Dham, and we see that from Salbek's pastimes also, the great devotee of Lord Jagannath. He was being asked by his mother to relieve your bodily pain. He was injured in the war. Then he has been told to pray to Vrindavan Krishna, Shyam Sundar Krishna. And then he goes to Vrindavan and then he visits all the places. He was in ecstasy. Then his mother passes away, his father passes away before. Then he's been told, Lord Jagannath is not different from Krishna. Now this is the time you should visit Radha Yatra, you should visit Lord Jagannath, take his darshan, and especially on Radha Yatra day. So from that pastime also we see that it's non-different. Same time, those who are completely and fully in separation of Krishna and his devotees, so then they run to Vrindavan as Lord Jagannath is running to Sundarachal to Vrindavan. So in that way, we can understand, I think, in that way we can understand. Obviously, Brahad Bhagavatam, as Madhupad mentioned, is establishing the highest abode and the topmost place and who is the topmost devotee. So in that context, that's how it is shown. But otherwise, those who are in separation of the Lord and his past, especially the devotees of Shyamsundar Krishna specifically, as we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita Anjali also, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking, who is the devotee, I forget, explain, in front of Vallabh Bhatta asked other devotee to glorify, speak about Krishna, who is the topmost, who is the topmost devotee. Then he went on explaining that Nanda Kumar, Krishna, none other than, and then he went on, spoke from the quoting scriptures. So I think in that way we have to understand, I think. Specifically on the Radha Yatra day, specifically Lord Jagannath going to Sundarachal, that specific pastime is the Vrindavan, but that is a little bit of a shorter version of Vrindavan. So if you want to really be absorbed every day, every minute, then so you have to run to Vrindavan. So with tears of ecstasy. So that's how I understood. I was just meditating on. Thank you so much. Wonderful question, Isodulal Prabhu. It's really.
Madhavananda Prabhu is back, so I can elaborate.
You want me to elaborate on what?
Oh, there's this wonderful question by Jasoda Dulal Prabhu. Jasoda Prabhu, you can.
Yeah, well, thank you, Madhupati Prabhu and Krishnaram Prabhu, for your answers. So, Madhavananda Prabhu, Dandavat Prams. My question was, in your lecture, the first of this series, you said Jagannath Puri Dham is a combination of, it has Aishwarya Dham, Audarya, and Madhurya, all three aspects. And my mind went to Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where Gopakumar initially is serving in Puri, but he's hankering for Vrindavan. And then he starts his journey back through the heavenly planets, through the layers covering the universe, to Ayodhya, Dwarka, like that. And then Narada and Uddhava are telling him to go to Puri. And I quoted something where one of the verses, Narada actually says,
Subhadra Balaram Samyutas Tvamvaivan Hodham Purushottamo Bhajet Chakresa Govardhana Brinda Katavi Kalinda Jatira Bhuvi Swayamayam. That verse?
No, it's 212 in chapter 5. It's Sri Krishna Devasya Sada Priyam Tat. And in that, the explanation, Gopi Paranadhanu Prabhu's purport also says that in that Purushottam Kshetra is non-different from Vraj. Krishna manifests not only his powers of Godhead, but all his sweetness there also. So my question is, why is Gopakumar then hankering to still go to Goloka? Is it as simple as certain devotees are only dedicated to a particular form of the Lord? Like Hanuman, even if you tell him all the glories of Goloka, he'll only want to be in Ayodhya. Is it as simple as that, or is there something behind it which I haven't grasped?
Well, first of all, the question is a really subtle question. And in our line, questions like that, really, there's a proper system for them. And there's also different understandings amongst different Vaishnavas. And we should acknowledge that. As Gauranga Prabhu, I'm sorry I wasn't there for all of his talk. I was there for part of it. One of the things he was mentioning is that one of the names of Puri is Dasavatar Kshetra. It's a place of 10 incarnations. It's also known as Durlabha Kshetra, a very difficult place to enter. It's known as Gupta Dham, a very mysterious Dham, and it's understood by different people in different ways. And you can't say that the people who see Jagannath or Jagannath Puri, as you see Jagannath is like Narayan and Puri is like Vaikuntha, you can't say they're wrong. But you also can't say that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are wrong in their vision about Vrindavan. So the question to me comes, why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come to Puri? As Ayendra Prabhu once pointed out, he said, but he left Puri and he went to Vrindavan and his ecstasy increased. I said, yes, but then he left Vrindavan, and where did he go? He went back to Puri. Because in Vrindavan, he saw there's a problem. We've been speaking something about the connection between the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, which is a Brahma Gita, and the 14th chapter, the Anchalila, which is a song of the Kapalika yogi, and how that Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira, he's experiencing the same feelings that Radharani was experiencing after Krishna had left Vrindavan, and she met with Uddhava there. So that's the feeling that Mahaprabhu wants to experience. And that's why he's tasting that in the Gambhira. That's the height of Radharani's ecstasy. He wants to experience that. And so for that purpose, the Chaitanya Bhagavat, the Chaitanya Mongol, different literatures describe that as soon as Mahaprabhu took initiation, the Chaitanya Mongol says immediately he wanted to go to Vrindavan. He was in Gaya, immediately wanted to go to Vrindavan. But there was an Akashvani, a voice in the sky said, no, don't do that now, later's the time. And so he didn't go then. Then later when he took sannyas, he said, I want to go to Vrindavan. Actually what he said at that time, according to Chaitanya Bhagavat, I want to go to Jagannath Puri. And he was thinking of Vrindavan just around that time too. So Mahaprabhu's desire was always to go to Vrindavan. But when he went to Vrindavan, he couldn't stay there. And why not? We know he went to Imli Tal. And Imli Tal is a place where Srimati Radharani, during the Ras Leela at Vamsivat, she left because it's a long, complicated, very rustic explanation why she left, but she wasn't completely happy. It's a long story. And Krishna went looking for her, and feeling separation from her, began calling out her name. And then Sham Sundar, Krishna, his blackish complexion, became golden like Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi. And that happened underneath that tamarind tree known as Imli Tal. That was 5,000 years ago. 500 years ago, when Mahaprabhu went to Vrindavan, he's now Krishna, but he's in the mood of Radharani. And he's not chanting Radharani's name, he's chanting Krishna, Krishna. And he's so much absorbed in Krishna, he sits down under that Imli Tal tree, and his Gora Varna, Gora Sundar becomes Shama Sundar. He becomes blackish. And then he thinks this is very bad. The next thing is a peacock feather will come and a flute, and I can't taste the mood of being a devotee, so I have to leave this place. But his desire was to taste Radharani's mood. So he was faced with a great difficulty. He had to find a place to go, which was Vrindavan, because you can only experience Radharani's mood in Vrindavan, but which is not Vrindavan at the same time. Because in Vrindavan, the mood is Milan, or union. And when he comes in the mood of Radharani, crying out so intensely for Krishna, then his Krishna form comes up, because that's the place of union. So he has to go to a place which is Vrindavan, but not Vrindavan, a place where there's two opposites in one container, in the language of my Guru Maharaj, and that's Jagannath Puri. And therefore there's many, many statements in Shastra. You quoted that verse, Sri Krishna Devasya Sada Priyantat, that just as Mathura Vrindavan is dear to Krishna, so also Sri Kshetra, but this place, Parameshvarya Bharat Prakasha, there's this great opulence found here. But Lokanusari Vyavahara Ramyam, there's also great sweetness here in this place. All three things are there. Again, in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami describes the words of Narad Muni to Gopakumar. This is in the 5th chapter, the 3rd section, check 610. He says, Tasmin Subhadra Balaram Samyutas Tamvai Vinodham Purushottamo Bhajet Chakresa Govardhana Brindakatavi Kalinda Jatira Bhuvi Swayamayam. He says that there in Jagannath Puri, he was in Dwarka when Narad Muni spoke this to him. And each place, as Gopakumar is going, he's thinking, this is it, this is the best place. And when he gets to Dwarka, sometimes he sees Krishna with cows playing a flute. And he's very happy. This is what Sanatana Goswami says in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and he's satisfied with that. But then other times he hears the Brahmins reciting Purusha Shukta, and there's so much opulence, and he sees Krishna with four arms, and he becomes confused, and I'm not happy here. And then finally, Narad Muni comes from behind a building or something, and he quotes this other verse, Kintupadesham hitamekam etam matashinu Sri Purushotamakyam. He says, listen, Kintupadesham, let me give you one upadesh, that there's another place different from Dwarka. It's in the spiritual world, because he's already in the spiritual world, but it's not Dwarka, and that's a place you've been to before. That's Purushottam Kshetra, Jagannath Puri. And there, Tasmin Subhadra Balaram Samyutastam Vaivanodham Purushottam Obhajet, you'll find Jagannath Baladi Subhadra, as well as Chakresa Govardhana. You'll find Govardhan Hill, Chakresa Govardhan, Brindakatavi, the Vrindavan forest, Kalinda Jitiri, you'll find the Jamuna River, Bhuvisvayamiyam. All three of those are present there. In the Purusha Bodhini Shruti, it's said that Yata Bhargavi Jamuna, Govardhana Ratna Samasana, Bimala Sadosa Chandika Sadosa Gopyaha. That in Puri, the Bhargavi River is the Jamuna, the Ratna Singhasan that Lord Jagannath sits on, which Gauranga Prabhu was mentioning, is made out of Shalagram Shilas. They say 1 million Shalagram Shilas, is not different from Govardhan Hill. And Bimala Sadosa Chandika Sadosa Gopyaha, the 16 Sadosha gopis, or 16 gopis, those are the 16 Chandis headed by goddess Bimala Devi. Those 16 gopis, by the way, are the Astasakis and the Astamanjaris. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada, in one purport in the Madhya Lila, he says that these three places are non-different. He says that the conclusion is that Navadvip Dham, this is what Madhya Lila chapter 22, text 132. He says the conclusion is that Navadvip Dham, Jagannath Puri Dham, and Vrindavan Dham are identical. Okay, so this is one reason why Mahaprabhu came to Puri. But if they're identical, it's just not true. They're not identical. I live in Puri. Where is Radhakund? And I don't see any big Govardhan Hill. I don't see any Jamuna River. Okay, the Bhargavi's there, this and that. But it's not the same as Vrindavan. And you go to Mayapur, it's also not the same as Vrindavan. But Prabhupada says this, and Shastra says this. So what does it mean? What it means is that it's a chamber of Vrindavan. Just like in your home, it looks like you're sitting in your office right now, Yashoda Dulal Prabhu. So in your home, you have different rooms which serve different purposes. You have a kitchen, you have a bathroom. You don't do the same thing in different rooms. They serve different purposes and they look different, but it's still in the same house. So Sachi Mata, she says, Nilachala Navadvipi Jai Duigar. These two places, Navadvip Dham and Jagannath Puri Dham, are two rooms in the same house. But what are the purposes of those rooms? Vrindavan Dham is Madhurja Mohi Dham, and that's the eternal abode of the Lord. Aradhya Bhagavan Bhajesa Tanayas Tadama Vrindavanam, in his Mangalacharna prayer to his commentary on the Bhagavatam, Srinath Chakravarti, disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives this verse, famous verse, and he says, of all the different abodes, Vrindavan is the best. Mahaprabhu wants to go to Vrindavan. It's not that he wants to stay in Puri. And he comes to Puri because Puri is a place of separation from Vrindavan. It's not different from Vrindavan. But there's two opposites in one container. It's Vrindavan, but not Vrindavan. It's a very subtle topic. Does that make some sense?
Thank you. So deep and so subtle and satisfying. Thank you, Prabhu.
I wasn't expecting to jump in on this Katai. Actually, I was really excited. Gauranga Prabhu is such a good speaker, and I was really excited to hear about Jagannath Astakam. But anyway, he chose something else.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but thank you for explaining in such nice detail.
Hare Krishna. Please come visit us in Jagannath Puri. We'd love that.
Love to. Thank you.
I'm going to run and take rest now. Please excuse me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Madhavan Prabhu. It was such a fun
Hare Krishna.
you to coming online. Thank you.
Haribol, Haribol, Haribol.
Haribol.
All glories to you, Mahaprabhu.
So, Mahaprabhu, Prabhu, we can end. If anybody has any other question, or we can end.
Just want to share one thing. I was thinking when Gaurang Prabhu was telling about Vibhishan and Lord Jagannath connection. From Murari Gupta's Karacha, we see the pastime of Ramadas Vipra coming to Jagannath Puri to take darshan, but somehow or the other, and then he was very poor. He was trying to get some opulence, to get his Lord's mercy and opulence. Then he couldn't get somehow. Then he was crying, and then at that time Vibhishan comes. He meets Vibhishan, and then Vibhishan takes him to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Mahaprabhu instructs him. Now he's praying for opulence. You give him the opulence. Then that Ramadas Vipra praying to Chaitanya Maha, please deliver me. Please give me the liberation. Then Mahaprabhu tells him, yes, you will get the opulence. You must renounce. Then once you renounce, you will get the Krishna Prema. I'm blessing you. So this is a beautiful connection from Ramadas Vipra and Vibhishan to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Lord Jagannath. It's unending pastimes. So many authors, so many books. It's almost 15 to 20 authors writing on these pastimes of especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. It's amazing. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Prabhupada, and all the Gaurang.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think regarding this Bibhishan pastime, there are instances like Bibhishan was coming some night time to take darshan, like as Mahaprabhu mentioned, as Gaurang Prabhu mentioned, that Jagannath doesn't sleep. He's a mystical treasure. Like in all around the ISKCON temples are around everywhere. Like our darshan arati is at 7:30 in the morning, but Jagannath, he's same Krishna, but he's in a different way. His Sringararati is at midnight. It happens at midnight. Like Gaurang Prabhu very nicely explained. Like this is Kali Yuga, and when at night we go out, so Jagannath, he gets dressed up for the gopis at night. That's what actually is there. But night time, I think once Bibhishan was coming to take darshan, he was encountered by a pujari, I think. So the pujari didn't believe, it seems, that he is Bibhishan. So Bibhishan, it seems, he has given his earring to the pujari. So this earring, I think, is somewhere in that in Puri museum, and there is a foil also. I think they have found somewhere. So the foil also is there. They are so huge. The earring also so huge. So they have kept it there. And when the chariot festival goes on the way, when Jagannath comes back, there is a Bibhishan Bandapana also. Like there is a statue of Bibhishan, the Murti of Bibhishan comes, and there is a Bandapana. Like Bibhishan is worshipping Lord Ram. In that form, he worships Lord Jagannath on the chariot. Just wanted to share this.
Thank you so much. Jagannath Prabhu, you want to add something before we end?
One thing I want to say is when we were just crafting this Sravan session, by Gaurang Prabhu's talk today, what I have realized is we should have put a topic on glories of Lord Jagannath Puri Dham, and which he took to a different level today. So it's something for us to realize, and the glories of Dham, the way, in a classic way he took it and he explained so beautifully, is something which we missed, and I think we learned through this association of the devotees and some of the pastimes you all have shared. But the glories of Jagannath Puri Dham is the topic today, and what a class Gaurang Prabhu gave on the glories of Jagannath Puri Dham. Thank you so much, Gaurang Prabhu, even if he's not hearing it, but it is an expression of our love to him. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. We're grateful to you for engaging all of us in Lord Jagannath's service, hearing glorification of Lord Jagannath, his devotees, his abode. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mahaprabhu Prabhu, we can close.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you. So we're grateful to all the devotees for connecting and hearing and participating. So please, all of you are invited fully with our folded hands to next Sunday, our Rath Yatra program in the temple, and then in Atlantic City on the boardwalk. So we can all chant and dance together, just like we did in New York. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo
Vaishnavindra ki
Jai. Jai.
Desi Bhakti
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.